So this is Eli. Eli spends his day cold calling, and he's currently on day 127 of cold calls, and he can't get anyone to say yes to him. And he's probably gonna have to get a real job soon. It's even gotten to that point where every time he walks outside, people just laugh at him and tell him that he stinks. He's tried numerous courses, binged watched thousands of hours of Jordan Belfort videos on YouTube, and quite frankly, he's about to give up. That is, until today. So today, I'm gonna be showing you the exact script framework that I use to get less hangups, more appointments, more interested leads, and ultimately more sales. Now, if you're struggling with cold calling, it's usually because of one of these 4 reasons. You don't know how to actually build trust with your prospects. You don't know how to get them to give you that first micro commitment. You don't know how to differentiate yourself from all of the other people that are cold calling them, or you simply don't know if what you're doing is good or not because no one actually taught you the right way. Now, if you are new to the channel, my name is Elias, and I help people get way better at sales. I've been in the game now for over 6 years. I started in car sales when I was 18. I ran my own agency for 2 years after that when I was 21. I was the top closer over at Agency Lab, and I also recently just finished scaling my own agency again to 110K per month. And I've helped a ton of other people too, like Josh Rivera and Courtney Scott and Tony Lee and Matt Shields, all with their agencies or their programs. So with all that in mind, let's jump right in. So let's talk about building familiarity with your prospects. A lot of us right now, I'll give you a perfect example, we are all very familiar with the common household jingle that we all know as ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Everyone knows exactly what that brand is, which is McDonald's. If you're not living under a rock, we all know exactly what that is because why? McDonald's has spent hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure that they have that trust built up because their marketing is everywhere. It's on commercials, it's on billboards, it's on radio stations, it's on your apps for music, it's on YouTube, it's all over the place. And every time you hear it, you know you're familiarized with that. Now, what is your slogan? What is your tonality? What is your actual approach when you're talking to a prospect off of the very first interaction? How do you come across as someone that has a little bit of that warmth, a little bit of that uniqueness? You want to think about calling your prospects as a contact sport, especially on a cold call. You have to make sure that you have at least 5 to 7 touch points on a cold lead to be able to even get them to advance to the next part of the sales process. And so many people, they forget that. They think that the first call is gonna be the ultimate one where they get the sale, they get the deal, but that's not the case. Your tonality and how you show up on those cold calls and how you resonate across with that prospect determines how familiarized you become over a long enough time horizon. If I call a business owner today and then tomorrow and then the next day, and he keeps saying, hey, call me back, call me back, call me back, every time I call him and he hears my voice, I'm doing what? I'm building familiarity with the prospect. So by the 5th time he picks up, he just hears my voice and he's like, oh, yeah, Eli, like what's happening? You can't build that familiarity off of just one call. It happens over days, weeks, and sometimes months to really build that familiarity at the highest level possible. So what I see so many people do, which gets them eaten up on the cold call, is they'll go in and they'll be very soft or a little bit more neutral. And what they'll do is they won't actually bring any uniqueness. They'll follow some generalized framework like, hey, I was just seeing if, maybe what we have on our end could help and, we're helping people. And guys, people hear that and they're automatically tearing you up. So the number one way that I like to come across is with assertiveness, with certainty, and maybe make it a little bit playful. Bring some emotion to the first 7 seconds of that conversation, and I promise you, you're gonna show up on those calls way different, and your prospects are also gonna notice that you're totally different than all the other people that are calling. And what you'll notice is your prospects will react differently as well. So in this example that I'll give you that you can use right now to get more cold calls, I'd say something like this. Hey, John, how's it going today, man? Or, hey, Lisa, you doing all right today? Very straightforward. And then from there, I like to call out and maybe bring some emotion. Let's say the prospect says, who are you and what are you calling about? And just listen to their tonality when they respond. What are you trying to sell me? Those are all the questions that they have. So I'd actually want to address that. And I would act a bit surprised and try to be a bit playful as well. Oh, yeah, no, of course, like my name's Eli here. I'm sure you get tens of thousands of calls all the time of people promising you the world and all these appointments, all these leads and closed clients and all this stuff. I actually am gonna get out of your hair in like less than 20 seconds. We've just been helping, and then you go do your pitch, which I'll talk about here in a moment. But that's the exact way that I would try to overcome their initial questions of who are you and what you do, because those are the questions that they're asking the whole time. And I promise you, when you reply back a bit more surprised and more playful, and you don't feed into their tonality of who are you, what are you doing, and then you immediately get combative and you're like, yeah, I mean, listen, like we're just selling this thing and like we got this stuff going on. Like you lost the moment you enter into that tonality fight match. What you want to do is just completely sound totally different, like it's casual, you do this all the time, and you're not surprised at all that they're asking who you are and what you do because you've already mentally understood, number one, sales is a contact sport with these cold calls, and number two, all you're trying to do is just build a little bit of that familiarity to get them to trust you a lot more. What I see so many people do wrong is they will go into the cold call and they will try to sell the prospect on what they do and how they do it and how they're different and how this is gonna be the best thing and just try to objection handle and do all these things. You have to remember that your job isn't to sell them completely on that first call. Why? Well, you're cold calling. You're literally interrupting their day. They're busy, they got all these other things going on. It's like interruption marketing. It's like when you're scrolling on social media and you see an ad, it interrupts your scroll. Put yourself in the prospect's shoes for a second. Have you ever gotten a cold call? Have you ever been cold called by someone and immediately you're like, who is this? What do they want? What are they trying to sell me? How are they different? Don't waste my time. So knowing what they're going through and you understanding how you feel when you're on the receiving end of a cold call allows you to show up way better when you actually call your prospects, because now you can actually prevent some of their objections by calling out what they might be thinking. And more importantly, respecting the fact that you are interrupting their day and all you're doing is getting a micro commitment. So let's talk about a quick example of how to do this. What a lot of people do is they'll use the crazy, amazing, classic one-liner, hey, did I catch you at a bad time? And then they'll use that as a justifier for like, hey, they have time right now, like let me pitch them, let me go through my sales call, all that stuff. What I'm here to tell you is I always like to follow up with a no-based micro commitment. What does that mean? Let's say, for example, you're gonna go and ask someone for something and you're not really sure if they're gonna say yes. You wanna have the highest possible chance of them actually saying yes to you. You might use what's called a no-based yes. So what does that look like? Hey, would this be totally crazy to explore further? Hey, is this something like that's just completely horrible and like impossible to even wanna look into? Hey, is this something you'd be opposed to? There's so many different ways to use the no-based yes. A lot of the times, your prospects are just waiting to say no. They're waiting to say, no, I'm not interested. Use that positive momentum by placing a no-based micro commitment at the end of your pitch. Why? So that you're leveraging all of the right things to make this beautiful mixing pot of what the cold call is to get the yes and get the sale. Let's talk about an example. Let's say towards the end of my little pitch, I might say, yeah, we've been helping clinics get an extra 5 to 10 patients in on a weekly basis. And I was just calling to ask, would it be impossible to get a few minutes of your time later today or tomorrow just to see if what we have might make sense for you? Well, no, it wouldn't be impossible, or no, but what are you trying to do? And then you can objection handle that. The no just opens up so many other doors for you instead of you being like, yeah, do you want this or not? Are you interested? Yes or no? Don't do that, okay? You have to make sure. Use the no-based yes to advance the micro commitment and get them to say, no, it wouldn't be crazy, and then you go and book a time. So we've talked about how to build familiarity. We've talked about how to get a micro commitment. Now the next thing is actually being able to differentiate yourself from all of the other people that are cold calling them. So what people will say sometimes is they'll say, so we have a whole system that is brand new, no one's using it, there's AI, it has everything in the world, all the bells and whistles, everything that you could ever imagine, Mr. Prospect. And in the prospect's mind, they're kind of like, yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like I've heard the same thing from all the other people. And whether or not what you're selling is different, it's about how you made them feel and how you came across to them. So a quick way to differentiate yourself is by using what I like to call a benefit-based call out. Because what that does is two things. Number one, it shows the client that you know what you're talking about and you're fully well-versed on industry lingo, which is again, building that authority and certainty in you and them. The next thing that it does is it actually gives them things to latch onto. People so many times, they think that they just have to ask questions and go through the interview style sales call. But in reality, a lot of it is also selling and giving them things that they can actually latch onto to then further the conversation, further pique their interest. It's a beautiful dance between you asking questions and then asking questions and you saying certain statements that they can then latch onto, so then again, it advances you to ask more questions afterwards. The whole process, when done magically, can just lead to so many more sales and conversations. And so a way that you can use these benefit-based call-outs goes like this. I know there's a lot of misconceptions right now because there's a bunch of teenagers that are kind of just cold calling people nowadays, and they sell you on like hey, you can get more jobs at no cost, or you can actually get a ton of meetings by leveraging a ton of the new algorithms that are out right now, or that you can get more phone calls with high ticket clients. They don't necessarily know who to listen to, what's right, what's wrong. And so like I was just curious, like, would it be totally crazy to see and maybe explore this a bit further? So benefit-based callouts, and then follow up with a no-based micro commitment. And I promise you, you match the 2 and 2 together, oh my gosh, you're gonna be doing some amazing things. Now, finally, how do you know if what you're doing is right or wrong? Well, I'm gonna give you the full breakdown here of the exact step-by-step script framework that I use, and I'll give you a live example, literally like what I would do right now if I wanted the cold call to get more yeses, more appointments, more intros, and more importantly, more sales. This is what I would say. I'd start by saying something like this. Hey, John, how are you today? Oh, yeah, this is just Eli here. I'm sure you get calls like this all the time about people trying to get a bunch of your time and chat for $1. Yeah, and I'm sure you get a lot of calls like this where people are promising you a bunch of leads or appointments or guaranteed stuff, this and that. I just want to shoot it straight. I only need about 10 seconds of your time. We've just been helping roofers get an additional 5 to 10 new estimates every single month through our new trial program where they don't have to pay anything up front, and we actually prove our results before asking for anything. Would it be crazy to grab a few minutes of your time to see if this might make sense for your business? So what do? We built familiarity with our tonality. We said, hey, John, how you doing? We didn't react and get uncomfortable and get nervous whenever they push back. Who are you? What are you doing? We called out the common things that most people do when they call them, which shows industry lingo, and it also answers their question of how are you different? And then from there, we go into our pitch, and your pitch should only be 1 sentence max. And it's what we call the irresistible opener. So it's like what you've been doing for people in their business, what that associated desired outcome is, and then follow it up with the no-based micro commitment. And that right there is how you make the cold call a magical experience. You sprinkle in a little bit of tenacity, a little bit of elbow grease, put some hair on your chest by actually just doing the volume thing so that it's unreasonable for you to not succeed. And I promise you, you're gonna be on a whole different level. You won't be trying to give up. You won't be reaching that fatigue. Guess what? Why? Because you're gonna get a lot more yeses. And with yeses comes consistency, because you actually see the light at the end of the tunnel and you're not getting shut down constantly. And so if you're gonna commit to this, and if you want to actually get better, apply the things I talked about here. Like, actually take action on it. Don't sit here and Netflix and learn this stuff and then don't apply it. I'm giving you the exact frameworks, the exact tips. So if you can hold yourself to that higher standard and commit to implementing some of the things that I talked about here today, then you are on to some amazing things, my friend. Now, with that in mind, let's just recap. We have the building familiarity opener leading into the callouts, leading into the pitch, leading into the micro commitment. That's all you need to focus on. All right, so you got this, crush it. I want to see your guys' wins. Go ahead, if you want to join my free school group, it's called Remote Sales 101, where we only talk about sales and how to get more clients and how to actually do better cold calls and how to do the script better and how to write the process better. And a lot of it is centered around just showing up way better for your prospects so you can come across as the authority, be legendary, and more importantly, keep pursuing your true greatness. And I will see you in the next one.